Let me tell you something, friend. 30 years is a long time to give to anything, marriage, friendship, or especially a job. And yet, for 3 solid decades, I gave my blood, sweat, and soul to Brookline Manufacturing. I was never late, never sick, never said no to overtime. You know the type? They called me Reliable Rick. You needed something done, you asked Rick? You needed someone to train the new kid? Rick. Office printer jammed for the 15th time? Rick. They joked I was part of the building. Probably had wires running through me and a barcode on the back of my neck. But here's the thing about loyalty. It only matters if the other side values it. My retirement was supposed to be a celebration. 30 years on the dot, and I had plans. Big plans. A cabin by the lake. Fishing. Reading all the books I bought and never had time to open. And of course, my retirement bonus. A big one. The kind they give to only the old dogs who stuck around while the rest chased better bones. 10 more days. That's all I needed. Just 10. And then I'd walk out of there a free man. Or so I thought. You ever feel the world shift under your feet? Like a rug yanked by a magician who fumbles the trick? That was me, in the HR office, on a Monday morning, sipping lukewarm break room coffee, hearing my boss say words I still remember, like a bad song stuck in your head. Rick, I'm afraid we're going to have to let you go. Just like that. No warning, no countdown, no thank you for your service. Let me rewind a little. My boss, Daniel, he wasn't always the boss. In fact, I trained him when he was a jittery intern who didn't know the difference between a socket wrench and a stapler. I showed him the ropes, covered for his mistakes, even helped him bluff his way through a presentation once when he forgot his flash drive. But somewhere along the way, he traded gratitude for ambition, and now here he was, sitting across the table from me like I was a faulty copier he needed to replace. I'm sorry, Rick. The company is restructuring. It's out of my hands. Out of your hands, my foot. It was very much in his hands. I could see it in his eyes, the guilt trying to hide behind fake sympathy. But my retirement, I muttered, feeling the coffee turn to acid in my stomach. I know, he said, pretending to sound torn, but you're technically being let go before your official retirement date. That means HR can't process the retirement bonus. Legal says I didn't even hear the rest. I walked out of that office feeling like someone had hollowed me out from the inside. 30 years, erased with a shrug, 10 days short of dignity. But I wasn't going to go quietly. Not me. Not Reliable Rick. Because sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the one who has nothing left to lose. I'll be honest. The first 2 days after they fired me, I didn't move from the couch. I just sat there in my work clothes, remote in hand, watching the news and wondering if I had just dreamed the last 3 decades of my life. My wife, Gloria, bless her heart, kept asking, "Are you okay?" I'd nod, smile, sip my cold coffee. But inside, I was boiling. You see, the injustice wasn't just about the money, though trust me, that bonus was no small chunk of change. It was about the principle, about being discarded like an old sock just because I was too close to collecting what I had earned. It was about Daniel, a man I had mentored, turning corporate on me like I was a number on a spreadsheet. So on day 3, I shaved, got dressed, and walked into my garage. That's where the real Rick lived, not the office version with his tie clipped on and the polite nods. The garage Rick was the thinker, the fixer, the planner. And that day, Garage Rick was mad as hell. You see, in 30 years at Brookline, I hadn't just done my job. I had learned everything about that place. The people, the systems, the secrets. I knew where the skeletons were buried and which ones were still breathing. And most importantly, I had the receipts. Let me explain. About 6 years ago, the company rolled out a shiny new inventory software system. Fancy dashboards, automated reports, the whole 9 yards. And guess who was tasked with helping them implement it? That's right, me. I wasn't just clicking buttons, I was one of the few who understood the back-end setup. And let's just say, I made a few backups. Nothing malicious, just insurance. The kind of thing an old-timer like me did because I didn't trust tech as much as I trusted myself. And boy, was that about to come in handy. Because during that setup, I stumbled upon a discrepancy, a recurring line item in the system that didn't add up. At the time, I flagged it to Daniel, who shrugged and said accounting would handle it. But I remembered. And when I pulled it back up on my personal drive that afternoon, right there under a folder called Taxes 2015, it was all still there. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of supply orders routed through a shell vendor. And guess whose name was connected to the approvals? Daniel. Oh, Daniel. Sweet, naive Daniel. You should have just let me retire. Now, before you get the wrong idea, I didn't want to ruin the guy. I didn't want revenge just for the thrill of it. What I wanted was my retirement bonus. Simple, fair, clean. So I came up with a plan, and it started with a single email. Subject, re. Discrepancies in procurement records, FYI, to Daniel Gray, VP Operations from Rick Dalton. Daniel, hope you're well. Been reviewing some old project files during my downtime and came across some procurement reports I thought you'd want to take a look at, particularly under vendor number 4653A. Looks like a significant amount of approval signatures came from your user ID. I'm sure it's just a clerical mix-up, but I figured I'd forward the backup I kept on file, just in case legal or HR ever needed clarification. Would hate for something to get lost in translation. Let me know if I should CC legal next time. Warm regards, Rick Now. I want you to picture the expression on his face when he read that. I didn't hear from him for 2 days. On day 3, my phone rang. My phone rang at exactly 9:02 a.m. on a Thursday. Corporate people always love calling early, makes them feel in control. I didn't pick up on the first ring, or the second. By the third, I answered with the calm voice of a man who'd been waiting for this call and already had his slippers on. Rick speaking. Rick, hey, it's Daniel. As if I didn't have his voice memorized. Daniel, I said with a smooth tone. To what do I owe the pleasure? There was a pause. I could hear him exhaling through his nose, the sound of papers rustling in the background, probably sitting in that fancy corner office. The one with the fake plant and the overpriced ergonomic chair I recommended to HR back in 2014. I got your email, he said. Interesting stuff. I let the silence sit a little. Let him squirm. Well, you know me, I said. Always the organized one. Another pause. Then he said, Rick, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Those procurement files, they're old, probably inaccurate. Might have been someone else using my login. You know how that goes. Oh, absolutely, I replied. But the timestamps, approval logs, and cross-matching invoice numbers are pretty, well, accurate. And if you're saying someone else used your credentials to approve payouts to a ghost vendor, that's even worse, don't you think? Silence again. He cleared his throat. Listen, he said. What are you looking for here? There it was. The moment of truth. Because make no mistake, this wasn't blackmail. I wasn't threatening him. I was giving him an opportunity. A window to correct a corporate injustice without involving messy things like press, lawyers, or prison. I leaned back in my chair and smiled, even though he couldn't see me. I want what's mine, Daniel. He didn't answer. My retirement bonus, I continued. Every penny I earned for 30 years of my life. The check should have been cut next Friday. You arranged for it to be processed, full amount. No taxes lost in the mail. No delay. And I forget I ever saw those files. There was a long exhale on the other end. Rick, don't Rick me. This is clean, Daniel. I'm not asking for a favor. I'm offering you peace. You realize how this could blow back on both of us? I chuckled. Not really. I was just a maintenance supervisor, a paper pusher. You were the golden boy. It'd be a real shame for someone like you to end up in the local papers, especially with that promotion to regional director coming up. Bam. The air left the room. I could feel it. He stammered something, but I wasn't listening. I already knew he'd fold. And sure enough, the next day, I got an email from HR. Subject, retirement package. Confirmation. Dear Mr. Dalton, we are pleased to confirm that your retirement bonus has been approved and processed. Please allow 5 to 7 business days for the funds to be deposited. Thank you for your service to Brookline Manufacturing. I stared at that email for a long time, and I'll be honest, part of me felt sad. Not because I blackmailed my former boss. Number, because that's what it took to get what I earned. But before I could sink into that feeling, another email came in. This one from Daniel. Subject, off the record. Rick, we're square now. You got what you wanted. I hope you can let this die here, no hard feelings. Daniel, hard feelings? I didn't have time for hard feelings. I was too busy packing for the lake. But I wasn't done just yet, because while Daniel thought he got off easy, I had one more lesson to teach him. Not out of spite, out of principle. Call it the final gift. After the bonus hit my bank account, I'll admit, I did a little dance in my kitchen. Gloria walked in, saw me waltzing with a coffee mug in one hand and the cat in the other, and just shook her head. You finally get what you deserved? She asked, pouring herself a cup. Oh, I got what they owed me, I said, grinning. But I'm not done yet. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a petty man. I'm not one of those folks who goes scorched earth just because someone hurt their feelings. But what Daniel did, it wasn't just personal, it was systemic, calculated. He'd turned the place I gave my life to into a corporate snake pit, and he thought he could slither out unbitten. That's not how this ends. Because while I was sipping retirement coffee and listening to old jazz in my garage, I wasn't just relaxing. I was building something. Not a bomb, not a lawsuit, not even a smear campaign. Number, I built a memoir. You heard me. A detailed, brutally honest, no-holds-barred account of my 30-year career at Brookline Manufacturing, written in plain English with real events, real names, and just enough color to keep a reader hooked. Title? 10 Days to Betrayal, a company's goodbye to loyalty. Catchy, right? Now, I didn't plan to publish it yet, but I printed exactly 12 hard copies, leather-bound, black cover, my name engraved in gold lettering like I was releasing the next great American novel. And I mailed each one out to a very specific group of people. 3 to the board of directors, 1 to the company's legal counsel, 1 to the HR director, who signed my termination papers, 1 to Daniel, of course, and the rest to local business reporters, industry blogs, and a podcast host known for exposing corporate corruption with a charming southern drawl and 500,000 loyal listeners. But I didn't stop there. No, see, I made one digital copy too, and uploaded it anonymously on a platform for whistleblowers. The kind of place where corporate misdeeds go viral faster than a raccoon video with banjo music. Within 48 hours, it was trending on LinkedIn. Within 72 hours, the board issued a statement. Within a week, Brookline Manufacturing's shares dropped 4.2%. Guess whose face ended up in the local business news, denying allegations and looking like a deer in corporate headlights? That's right, Daniel. And me? I was on a boat, fishing rod in hand, when my phone buzzed with the headline, VP of Operations under review after whistleblower memoir surfaces. I chuckled. Not because I ruined him. I didn't. He still had his career, his corner office, for now, but he'd never forget me. He'd wake up every morning wondering if someone else from the company had dirt. He'd sit in meetings scanning faces, unsure who might be holding the next loaded file. I didn't just take back my dignity. I took back my power. You see, people like Daniel, people who rise up too fast and forget who helped them get there. They don't expect the quiet ones to bite back. They count on loyalty to stay silent. But sometimes, loyalty grows a spine. And when it does, it writes books. The cabin by the lake wasn't fancy. No granite countertops, no smart appliances. Just wood, warmth, and the gentle creak of a screen door that let in more breeze than bugs. It was perfect. Every morning I'd sit out on the old dock with a cup of black coffee, steam rising into the sunrise, and just exist. No alarms, no meetings, no fake smiles or office politics. Just me, the birds, and the slow rhythm of water. And it was out there in that quiet stretch of heaven that I finally let it all sink in. I had won. Not in a flashy, movie ending kind of way. There were no explosions or ticker tape parades, just peace, the kind you earn. And you know what? I didn't even feel angry anymore. Daniel, he could keep his corner office, his polished LinkedIn bio, and his shaky poker face. The truth had been set free, and the ripple effects? Well, those were in motion long before I ever hit send on that memoir. I had no control over where it would all land, but I had control over me, over my dignity, over how my story would be remembered. You see, somewhere along the way, work stopped being just work. It became identity. I was Rick from Brookline before I was anything else. And when they tried to erase that, when they tossed me aside 10 days before the finish line, they thought they were erasing a man. But what they didn't know was that I had already built a legacy. Every young employee I mentored, every system I improved, every mess I quietly fixed behind the scenes. I was the foundation. And when the company cracked, the foundation got the last word. One afternoon, Gloria joined me out on the dock with 2 glasses of lemonade. She sat beside me, barefoot, and looked out over the water. "You look lighter," she said, smiling. I nodded. "Feels like I finally put the weight down." "You miss it?" she asked. I thought about it, the routine, the grind, the title. "No," I said honestly. "Not one bit." "What about Daniel?" I shrugged. "He'll learn, or he won't. Either way, I'm not part of that story anymore." She nodded, resting her head on my shoulder. And in that moment, I realized something. Sometimes the best revenge is peace. Not because you let them off the hook, but because you refuse to let bitterness rent space in your soul. To anyone watching this, maybe you've been there. Maybe you gave everything to a company, a boss, a system, only to be tossed aside when it no longer suited their bottom line. Let me tell you something. You are not disposable. Your value isn't tied to a paycheck or a badge or a company name stitched into your shirt. You are the sum of your effort, your integrity, your impact. And no spreadsheet can calculate that. So if you ever find yourself betrayed like I was, don't waste your energy on rage. Channel it into power, into clarity, into peace. And when the storm passes, take your fishing rod, your lemonade, your dignity, and go build yourself a dock by the lake.